This is going to be a very sad video, actually, of a gentleman who many people know, Roman Atwood. I don't actually even know who he is. I just know he's a big YouTuber. But he goes and interviews a gentleman named Whistlindiesel who shares about his faith and his, parents' kind of view on what he's doing now and stuff like that. Just for some background, Whistlindiesel came from a Jehovah's Witness background. So he was in a Christian cult, and now he's trying to come out of that. And he just explains what I believe to be some pretty profound thoughts, but also some quite heartbreaking ones that we should consider as Christians today when we're leading people, hopefully, towards Jesus and not away from him.
Because a lot of people have life goals, but they're dealing with maybe parents that support or don't support them. How were your parents when you made this jump to YouTube? You're working for your dad. He's probably relying on you in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Were they supportive? Like, how did that go down?
Yeah, so I'd say my dad is really similar to me, other than his view on religion, probably. And my mom is very supportive.
So, like, obviously the point is he's making a criticism of, the fact that they are still Jehovah's Witnesses, even though he has, changed his view on the whole JW game and said, I'm not very interested in this anymore. So that's where this is coming from, what he's saying of, the difference. So he's saying we're aligned in a lot of ways. We just don't agree on religion, which, again, would be a spit in the face to them, because, like, the only thing that does matter to JWs is their faith. Like, that's the only thing that they care about. And as Christians in general, that should be the only thing we care about as well. Just unfortunate that they're way off on a lot.
Both are supportive of me. Like, they're really good parents. Like, they want to see me succeed. Their view of success is different than mine, but they want to see me.
They want him to be probably a missionary or something along those lines.
Do well, like, they're always there for me. If anything, it's me being too busy, But yeah, I'd say when I started YouTube, they are supportive of everything I do, unless they think it conflicts with God. So that's where the only lack of support was from.
Which, by the way, if you've watched his stuff, like, a lot of it would be for, again, like, in their mind, right? Because, like, they're very, very, very conservative with things, very chilled, modest, calm type lifestyle. And he is the complete opposite. He's driving, G-Wagons into brick walls and stuff like that. So, like, obviously he's doing, like, practically, I mean, they would not be happy or pleased with him as a child from a JW standpoint. So I'm sure that causes a lot of conflict.
And then my grandpa as well is really close to me. So my grandpa is extremely supportive. But yeah, definitely with my parents, kind of concerned about how it looks for my religion and stuff, especially when I started. And he didn't want me, like, leaving construction, particularly because he needed help. But he was, like, okay with me going. Like, he knew that I had opportunities outside of it, so he's okay with it. But yeah, I'd say my parents in general are pretty supportive people. I can't complain about the way I was raised, other than just the religion. Yeah. But
and he keeps going back to it because obviously this is something that's been very upsetting to him. Which this next statement he makes, I think, I hear what he's saying here.
Yeah, I really can't put that on anyone.
Yeah, were they born into it too? Is all they know?
No. So I think that's a huge difference, because when you are not born into it, you've chosen it.
Yeah.
If you've chosen something, you've justified it to yourself. I never had that choice. Yeah. I was born
So he's
into
saying,
it. I've taught that's all you're supposed to do. If you do anything else, you're bad for it. And I was like, well, I'm going to try it.
So he's saying he never had the choice because he was just born in and always told it was right. Whereas, they made the conscious decision themselves to become Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that the way that this is relevant to how we are supposed to be evangelizing today as Christians ourselves is spending a lot less time trying to just tell somebody that it's right or pray a prayer after me. This is what leads to false conversion, right? When we look at Jesus's words in the Sermon on the Mount, or excuse me, not the Sermon on the Mount, but in the parable of the sower and the seed. This is Jesus's most important parable that he shares. And the reason it's the most important is because he says, if you do not understand this parable, how will you understand any of my parables, right? The reason is because he's saying that I'm sharing all of my parables and they're all in context of this one parable, meaning that they're all building upon the same premise of this same parable. And it talks about how there were many of these seeds and they were put in different places on the ground, and some of them lived and then most of them died. One lived, the rest died. And it says that everybody left. And it said, why, the disciples asked him, why do you speak in parables? And Jesus answered said, to you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been granted. For whoever has, more shall be given to him in abundance, but whoever does not have, even what he does have will be taken away. Therefore, I speak to them in parables, because while seeing they do not see, and while hearing they do not hear nor understand. And in this case, the prophecy has been fulfilled. What he's saying is they have the ability to learn, but they've just chose to keep their hearts hardened because it actually just did not mean that much to them, prioritize this words that Jesus was saying over whatever in life. And then explains that these seeds were all seeds that turned away. It says that the kingdom of God is like this, that the evil one comes and snatches one of the seeds away. And the other one is thrown in a rocky place, and the one who hears it immediately receives it with joy. This, I think, is the most relevant in our churches today. Yet has no firm root in himself and is only temporary. And when the afflictions and persecutions arise because of the word, immediately he falls away. Well, what does this look like? A lot of people would imply, oh, well, it's when I get, whipped for my faith. Well, I've never been whipped, so that's not relevant to me. No, what this is in prevalence to, is you getting mocked at school, or you going and saying, hey, I love Jesus. This Jesus thing is amazing. I want to be with Jesus all the time. Am I not allowed to sleep with my girlfriend anymore? Oh, that right there is the thing that is now butting heads with you in regards to whether you want to keep following Jesus or not. So people just tap out and stop following him. These are the kinds of problems that people have that make them turn away from the faith. This is false conversion. And when we just tell somebody to pray a prayer after me, when we make sure that the mood's all right and the synth has been playing in the background and Hillsong is singing their high notes, and then you can accept Jesus, you're not accepting Jesus. You're accepting a dopamine hit emotional moment. That is of help of nothing at all. We need people to hear the real Jesus, the real gospel, the real repentance from sin and dead works and faith towards God. This is what people need to hear. They need to hear the fundamental elementary teachings of Christ per Hebrews 6. They do not need this watered down gospel where it's Xbox events and nights and come and enjoy and hit the road with us for our next concert that we're having. That's not what is helping. People need to hear the full gospel, because if they do hear the full gospel, are they ever going to want to turn back, right? I appreciate my parents were open and letting me do this. And I think that more people should be as well, of like saying, hey, you're allowed to challenge these beliefs. You're allowed to ask questions about these things. You're allowed to push back and say, I'm not sure how I feel about that, and have good, great, awesome dialogue. Because the reality is everybody has these questions at some point of skepticism of whatever their belief system is, atheism, Christianity, agnosticism, etc. And to be felt like you're condemned or pressured to not be allowed to ask these questions. One of the churches that I went to for some capacity of time, they were that way, where it's like I didn't feel like I was allowed to ask, and I don't feel like really anybody had any answers for me either. But when I asked those questions to the right people and they answered them, it gave me more faith. Like I'd never had as much faith when I got answers to these questions that I had. And in the same way, we as Christians should encourage others to question their faith and question how we've came to the conclusions that we've came to, so that they can come to a firm, rooted, grounded belief in what it is that they're believing in, instead of just this like, I had this emotional moment and I was doing pretty rough and now I'm doing better and I feel happy because Jesus is with me now. Like, not that. But like, people need to learn apologetics. Us as Christians have not done a very good job of encouraging the church in apologetics. I'm going to do way more apologetic conversations in this channel, because I've had so many people ask me about it and request it. And it's really important, I think, for people to know. But here it is right here. 1 Peter 3:15. It says, sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, being ready at all time to give a defense for the hope that is within you, and to give an account for I'm quoting it in my head in a different translation than I'm reading it in. But to be able to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is within you, but with gentleness and respect. This right here is apologetics. You being able to convince somebody as to why you believe, and hopes to obviously convince them as well to give their lives to Jesus too. This is what it is that us as Christians need to know for our sake, and then for other sakes to come to salvation. And unfortunately, we aren't encouraging or preaching this a whole lot in our churches. But thankfully, you are on YouTube and you have a lot of great, awesome people who you can listen to on YouTube, be able to share with you all of these great apologetic things so that you can look more like Jesus.